Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid is calling for an end to the war in Gaza. In a sharp statement on his social media, he says the Israeli government no longer has the public support to continue the conflict. Lapid argues that Israel has always needed a clear majority to justify war, but says that condition no longer exists. He accuses Prime Minister Netanyahu's government of losing the public's trust, failing to meet the war's goals, and neglecting the return of hostages. Lapid's comments come as pressure mounts on Netanyahu's leadership, with criticism growing over the government's handling of the war and the fate of captives still held in Gaza. Now we're joined by Yossi Cooper-Vosser. He's an Israeli intelligence and security expert, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Yossi, for joining us today. Good to see you. Now, how significant is Yair Lapid's call for an end to the war in Gaza in terms of shifting Israeli public opinion and challenging current President Netanyahu's leadership?
Well, the calls for the ending of the war go along for a long time. It's more than a year that the opposition is calling for ending the war and for releasing the hostages in return for leaving Hamas in power in Gaza. The government, of course, is against it and looks for ways to bring back the hostages without leaving Hamas in power in Gaza. That's the goals of the wars the government has declared. So it's hard to see if there is really a change. Definitely when we have less and less living hostages, and the conditions of the hostages are so poor, so terrible, that public pressure coming from both the opposition and the families of the hostages is growing, and the government is under a lot of pressure. But still, the government is committed to achieving both goals of removing Hamas from power and defeating Hamas and releasing the hostages at the same time. It's more and more difficult to reach these goals because the government doesn't want to end up with a situation where they rule Gaza, where Israel rules Gaza. So it's a very complicated situation. How do you remove Hamas from power without taking over the entire control of Gaza? So far, they haven't found a solution how to do that.
And Yossi, now, could Lapid's criticism of President Netanyahu lead to a broader political shift within Israel, particularly in relation to how the government handles the ongoing conflict and the issue of hostages?
Yeah, that's growing criticism, and definitely because we have reached a situation where Hamas refuses to move forward on a hostage deal, that the criticism of the government grows. And a lot of people don't want Israel to really destroy Hamas and take over the Gaza Strip because they believe that the price of ruling over the Gaza Strip is going to be too heavy, too high. And this debate goes on in Israel. It's an open society. It's a lot of disagreements within the Israeli population on the way to conduct the war effort in the coming month. And we have to face also growing international criticism, especially from Europeans, that have fallen prey to the Hamas campaign of delegitimizing Israel's activities, and have taken all kinds of steps that are against Israel. But this doesn't change Israel's commitment. We still remember, many Israelis still remember what happened on October 7th, 2023. We still remember who is Hamas and how terrible they are. And the clips of the hostages they have released recently just remind Israelis exactly what savage enemy we have and what monstrous enemy we have. And of the need to make sure that we defeat Hamas and make sure that they are not staying in power after this war.
And Yossi, now, what are the broader implications of the Israeli government's potential loss of public support for this war, and how might this domestic pressure affect Israel's diplomatic strategy moving forward?
Well, the government enjoys a relatively strong coalition. It's going through all kinds of problems because of unrelated issues. The issue of conscription of the Haredis to the military, this causes a lot of tensions within the coalition. But on the question of whether to continue the war, there's wide support inside the coalition for this policy. But we are approaching the time that the government is going to has to go to elections in a year time. And this, of course, weakens the government from within, and it might lead to early elections. It's still too early to speak about it because the government enjoys the fact that the parliament, the Knesset, is now on vacation, so it's not going to be convened before October. And until that time, there cannot be any change in the government. So it's, they have time, and they are waiting to see if they can manage to accomplish some achievements in Gaza. We have to remember that they were very strong until recently because of the very successful operation in Iran, destroying the Iranian nuclear weapons systems. Was very much in favor of the government that managed to prove that it's not afraid of all kinds of threats, and it's determined to make sure that the threat of the nuclear weapons from Iran is going to be removed. That was strengthening the government very much, and now because of what seems to be some sort of a deadlock in Gaza, the public support for the government is dwindling.
Yossi, thank you for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we move on